Hello there, my name is Sixo, but more on that later because we've got the brand new Blokees Action Edition Soundwave to build today, and frankly, I could not be more excited for this thing. After all, I was a huge fan of the equivalent Optimus Prime from Blokees. I thought it was absolutely spectacular. I've already done a video of that thing on the channel, so you should go and check it out, and I'm hoping for more of the same today. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Now, for clarity, this is not just your regular Blokees fare, you know, the kind of smaller figures. This is much larger, kind of super articulated robot with lots of features sides, and in this case that means lights and sounds effects, and it comes with a couple of little cassettes as well, so what more could you want? Anyway, before we get to all of that, we've got some building to do because all of the various bits come in these sprues in these little bags, and there's this fairly decently sized instruction manual showing you how to put it all together as well. But it is worth me stressing that actually everything is a lot easier here than it might first look. After all, everything is really neatly laid out in the instructions, and you just want to find the sprue number and the part number to identify which piece you need for each particular bit. For example, this is sprue H1 and we need piece number 26 for the face. Now the other good news here is that everything just pops off very easily and neatly. There's no clippers required or anything like that. So if you're imagining kind of worst case scenario Gundam kit model or something, this I think is a lot easier. I mean, take it from someone with my level of ability, right? Like if I can do it, absolutely anybody can do this. I mean, there we go, just plonk his little red visor in over the top, and then we've got the kind of shell of the head just going on there. It's the kind of back of the head crest and the front piece, which just sort of slots in like so. Then you want to do the little sides of his head, which look like they go on with a bit of a click. Still doesn't look quite right for Soundwave just yet, but it will in a minute. And that's because the last piece to go on is that faceplate, which once you get it lined up, should just click into place with a little bit of effort. But there we go, and he's all done, looking a lot more like you would expect. Oh, not forgetting about his classic little head crest there as well. Anyway, before we get into the rest of the build, I do want to say that this video is brought to you by TF Source. You will find a link to their site in the video description below, and you should absolutely go and check them out for all your Transformers needs. They got tons of blocky stuff, including the Action Edition Soundwave, available right now, so what are you waiting for? Go and give them a look. Anyway, the next job is to get that neck in there, our first bit of articulation on the go, before we start working on the main body, beginning with this piece right at the center of it, which is where all the electronics are, activated by a magnet. The next job is to get these hinge pieces for the shoulders together, so they just clip in place like so, and then that just attaches to the main body just in there, and then the same on the other side, and then you kind of got this hinge mechanism which is made up of several pieces. Next we just slide on this larger piece there, which looks like it's part of the front of the chest, I don't know, and then this black piece, which looks very cassette themed, just slides in there. This next piece is really interesting. You want to get these tiny little yellow bits and kind of slide them through there so that they appear on the front, and then once done, that just sits on the side of the chest just there. We've then got the top of the chest piece around the neck to work on. This is cool actually. Here we've got his little eject button that you just want to slide into place, and then we can just bring that together with the rest of the chest that's already been built. We've then got the back panel to assemble, starting with these little silver bits before putting that in place around there, and then covering that with another piece. And I think you can see how that's starting to take shape, but now we've got to do the cassette deck door. And for that we have this kind of special clear plastic piece that just goes there before putting the yellow trim around the outside and kind of clipping it all together. And then, as you might anticipate, that just clips into place, and then you can close it up and looks really good. Okay, this is going to be a lot of fun. Time to start building the crotch piece now. I'm going to get that blue bit on top of there. I'm going to get some hip flaps on the go, like so. Actually, it turns out those were bum flaps, because here we have his front buttons, and then you can get the other buttons installed as well. And then once that's all done, you've got this kind of bottom bit of the body just there. Next, we're going to work on the arms, which start with the joints, for getting all the shoulder pad bits together, including those little white sections on the front, and clipping it all together to make one shoulder pad. You've got to combine these three pieces together to make a bit of an elbow joint, before adding that together with a load more pieces to make the entire forearm. And already you can see how those joints are starting to work. You can then add on the kind of two white cuff pieces around the outside, and then this is quite unusual. You want to slide that little kind of red line piece over the top there before starting to bring in the kind of outer white casing for the arm, which is really interesting because you then do lose all of the kind of robotic detailing on that black piece underneath, but oh well. You've then got this little blue piece for the elbow and another piece of white casing, which is actually really interesting because it leaves this peg hole open, and you can replace that. There is an alternate piece that you can put in instead which covers it up, but you may want the peg hole to kind of attach things to, I guess. Anyway, that's most of the arm done, so you can click those two bits together and then get to working on the hands. And you can see that all of the fingers are kind of individual pieces, so you've got 4 fingers, a thumb, and the hand piece itself. And then once that's all assembled, you can see how articulated the hands are, and then you just want to put this little additional piece on the kind of back there, and you're all done, which some might say is pretty handy. Anyway, next it's the legs, and as with the arms, you want to start off with a few joints. And I could be wrong here, but I think what we're making is a foot. It's a very definite footy vibe to it. Let's put it that way. I think you got the ankle just there. So we're going to get that blue bit over the top. And then I think it's safe to say he's got sole. And then you want to bring in that white toe piece, and yeah, definite foot. And then start assembling what I think is the knee, and these pieces are so clever with the way they kind of glide together. It's really remarkable design. Anyway, you want to get all of that lined up very neatly and push it in, and then that's the core of the thigh done, and you want to bring in what is essentially the shin. You then need to peg this piece onto the front, but what's really mad is that there's a load of detail here, and in a minute you won't even see it. We then have the outer casing pieces, and on this one leg you have this little button to add in there before just clipping that onto the rest of the leg piece already done, and then bringing in the other side and closing it all up. How cool is that, right? Anyway, then you want to bring in these white casing pieces and just kind of tab those in. Same on the front, and this is where you lose all that lovely detail. And there's even a third piece to go on the side. We've then got these little silver speaker sections to put together, and you want to make sure that little silver pipe piece just fits through there on the little bit of blue, and then that's the other side, onto which you need to add this little black hinge piece. And then that whole bit actually just kind of slides in there. Now, it does feel like a bit of a tight fit, but there we go. And then you've got the front of the leg, the kind of blue bit that kind of goes over all that white section before you add in these other blue panels to the top of the knees. You've then got this other blue panel which just goes on over the top before adding this rather small little red accent in at the top there, and then this yellow one underneath. Final few bits on the legs, you just want to get those thigh pieces in place and then get those hip joints in there, which should just go in with a bit of a click before inevitably adding the foot onto the leg. And again, you want to give this one a little bit of welly because it will go with a bit of a click. Anyway, once all the limbs are done, it's time to connect the various bits of the body all together. Want to get the hip joints in there like so, get that other leg on there until it clicks. Same goes with the arms, of course. Starting to take shape now. There we go. Just get that on until we get that really nice little click. Then, of course, it's time to finish up with the head. Once the main body's done, you've got his weapons to think about, and this is his little shoulder cannon, which is quite intricate actually. There's quite a lot to it, but the finishing touch is that little red bit on the front there, and then that has this little kind of sliding mechanism. This whole bit folds down and then that folds back. These are all pieces that you put together yourself, by the way, but then that back piece can just come over his shoulder and kind of tab in there. We can then start putting together his little hand weapon as well. Just get the little handle piece on the other side, then just close those two halves up together. Got these little bits that just go on the back, and then just the little end of the cylinder before capping it all off with the little red piece just there to kind of add a little bit of colour. And then the blue end of the cannon goes on there. And a bit like on the classic Soundwave toy, you can transform this into his gun by folding out the little handle, and you just fold that little bit in there, and then the actual weapon bit just pulls out of the middle there before just tabbing it all rather neatly into his palm, quite securely actually, and just closing up the fist. Looking pretty swish right there as well. Really love how this thing looks. But before we get into all of that, let's build some cassettes. Kicking off with Laserbeat, you want to get those legs clicked in on his body before just adding in this piece towards the rear. You've then got his absolutely tiny little head to make, including this little yellow visor which goes in like that. You've then got to put the wing pieces together and then kind of close up the two halves just there. Kind of click that all in, and then once the wings are all done, you can put them in place and then kind of slide the other half of the body on top just there, close it all up, and then you've got this silver bit which just tabs in on the top there to kind of finish it all off. That is really rather adorable. Now what is rather cool is that they've also included this little Soundwave cassette deck accessory just there, which Laserbeak can carry, but in order for him to do that you have to actually swap out the legs because it's got this little peg hole just on these alternate legs just there for that to sort of tab in, and it's a bit of a shame that you can't do that on the default legs. I think that is a little bit of an oversight, but still a very fun inclusion nonetheless. But once it's in place, there's really no denying that that is definitely quite enjoyable. Absolutely love it. Next up we got Ravage, and you just want to assemble all the various bits of his head and then get the kind of outer casing for that just there and kind of click that into place. You've then got his little tail section just there, and on top of that you want to kind of cover it all up, close those bits together. That goes onto the main body, and with the head now in place as well, we can close him all up, and that is the body complete. Next you want to make his little cat legs, so you just put those two halves together like so, and then just take this little missile piece that just goes in right at the top there, kind of tabs into place, and then you can take the second piece, the kind of outer casing of the leg, and just close all of that up. And then all 4 legs just pop on the ball joints. And there we go, he looks rather perfect. Next up is Ratbat. So first you just want to assemble all of these back pieces like so. Then we have this rather lovely kind of pinky purple for the wings. So first you just want to close up those 2 halves. Same with that other little bit of wing. And then those can just tab together to make the full thing. Once you've got his wings in place, then you can just tab in those little feet before closing up the front half of the body. We then have what I think must be the smallest piece overall with that little jaw, and then you want to attach the front of the head just in there to kind of make the eyes. That is a really good Ratbat head sculpt. And then the head can pop onto that ball joint. And there we go, he looks really good. Next up we got Rumble. You want to assemble the bits of the head, and it is Rumble according to the instructions, but you can call it Frenzy if you want. And just get 2 halves of the body together, peg those guns in on his back, and then why not just put the head in place now. You've then got the arms to do, with the lower and upper arms both being made of 2 pieces each. You can just tab those together, and then you just want to bring in the fist, get that in there as well. Then once the arms are all done, they can go on the main body as well before adding on the little hip piece. Legs are a similar story. Both the shins and the thighs are made up of 2 separate pieces, and then you just want to plonk the foot on there before tabbing on to the main body. And there is a little bit more to be done because you've got his pile drivers on the sprue to build as well, but we'll look at those in a minute. Anyway, with all the building done, we can finally sit back and admire this finished robot mode. And I have to say, I absolutely adore how this thing looks. I really like the kind of proportions and everything. I think it's got that kind of chibified feel, if anything. It looks superb. I mean, the head sculpt is quintessentially G1 Soundwave, isn't it? So handsome. Love the little light up eyes and everything. This whole chest area is really good as well. Love this kind of yellowy orange colour going on there. And of course you can open his little chest compartment as well. You've got that detailing in there. Of course you can't transform the cassette guys that actually come with this release, but they do give you a little kind of fake Laserbeak cassette, so that is really, really cool. Love the kind of colours on this and everything as well, and it does look like a folded up Laserbeak, and then you can just kind of close the door up there, so that just gives a little extra pop of colour, which is really nice. Because everything here is kind of individual pieces of plastic, it does mean that the different colours are really nicely separated and all quite crisp and looking really nicely finished, and it means that I'm kind of really digging the colour scheme on offer here. You know, this sort of very vibrant blue is so nice, this really stark white, very vibrant kind of goldy yellow again, and the little red highlights, it all just pops wonderfully. Nice molded detail all over as well. I mean, not so much that it kind of detracts or anything like this, but it's also not like super smooth in that kind of animation style, so I really like the kind of amount of detail here. It feels cartoony, but it's still got a little something that's kind of visually interesting, you know? Likewise, again, you've got those little silver sections on areas such as the back just here, and it just adds a little something to kind of look at. Again, you've got the little switch on the back of one of the legs just there, so that's kind of cool. And the other back of the leg has the little volume knob, which does turn, so it's even got a little bit of a ratchet to it. Now again, you've got his little shoulder launcher thingy going on there, or you can take that off. Likewise, as good as the gun is here and as secure as it feels in hand, you can just remove it for a bit of storage. You want to just kind of fold everything back up into kind of battery mode, if anything, and then just flip that little bit out on the top just there, that little peg. And then as for the shoulder launcher, you can just pull that forward again and just fold that piece in. And then you can use the 2 tabs on his back just there to kind of store them, not quite as batteries, more sort of like a jet booster, if anything, like a rocket pack, but does look kind of cool. Another slightly unusual feature here is that you can actually unclip the sides of those legs and kind of fold them out to have those little speaker sections on display, which is really quite unusual actually, not something that I'm particularly familiar with from Soundwave toys, but I like it. I mean, it does mean you get to appreciate a bit of that robotic detailing on the inside of the leg, and you get the kind of silvery speaker bit as well, so pretty cool I think. I don't know, it's not like they needed another gimmick here, but it's something. The other big gimmick here is the lights and sounds involved, and that's all activated using a little magnet, which of course here is in the shape of that Decepticon logo, and as before you just tap it kind of on the chest with that module that's just inside. One tap will light up the eyes, there we go, and then a second tap will start to activate the lights and sounds, and he's got 3 voices, 3 phrases that he can give you, so Now in truth, I like that they included that, and I think it works generally pretty well, but I have to say the sound quality is not brilliant, and it's quite hard to hear what he's supposed to be saying. Like, I can just about make it out, but it's a little bit difficult to hear, let's put it that way. So, nice idea, I'm not too convinced on the execution there. Not to worry though, there's plenty more going on here, including tons of articulation. The head goes from side to side and can look up and down just like a little smidge. You got a bit of butterfly in that shoulder joint just there, and the arms come up to about 90 degrees as well. You've got a bicep rotation going on in there, and you've actually got double jointed elbows, so decent bit of range going on there. Now, as mentioned before, there's loads of articulation in the hands, including a ball joint at the wrist, and all of the fingers are individually articulated, actually at 3 points, so you can articulate them at each of the knuckles, which is quite fiddly, and they're very stiff, but it does mean that you can get lots of poses out of them. Then got a waist swivel going on there, but no kind of ab crunch or anything. And then if you want to get those hip flaps out the way, then you will get a very decent range at those hips, about 90 degrees again, so that's really good. And then similar story on the knees, and a pretty decent ankle tilt as well. Not quite as much as I might have liked, but it's something. And even a little bit of toe articulation. All of which means he's pretty well articulated, and there's some nice fluidity to the joints as well. It all glides really nicely, but still feels really stable and solid, and the worst thing that's going to happen is like an arm might come off or something, but you just peg it right back on and you're in business. Now, Soundwave will always be the main draw of this set for me, but it's still great fun to see some of the included cassettes as well, and I like the variety that they've got going on here, the fact that they included 4 of them, which are all very different. You know, it would have been quite easy, I'm sure, to just give us like Rumble and Frenzy and be done with it, but they didn't. They really went to town on it, and it does make for quite a nice variety and a really welcome inclusion, all told. Rumble, or Frenzy, or whatever you want to call him, is pretty cool actually, like slightly stylized. He's got a really mean head sculpt going on there, a little bit of paint on the chest and things, and he's quite nicely articulated as well. I mean, you've got articulation all around his limbs and things like this, so pretty poseable, I want to say, and just generally quite good fun. Pretty cool that you can take his guns off his back and put those in his hands if indeed you prefer, or you can swap out the hands entirely for a pair of optional kind of pile driver weapons which just clip in place of the fists, and yeah, that's a little something. It's a bit different, isn't it? Alternatively, you can build those pile driver pieces and kind of attach those over the arms, sort of close them up just there, and then they're in place, ready to go, and that works really well. Quite similar to the Masterpiece Rumble and Frenzy in terms of execution, but very, very simple, and I like that they included this as well. Ravage is quite a funny one in terms of style anyway, because I feel like, if anything, they've made him a little bit more feline than he normally is. Like, I know there's the whole joke about Ravage being a dog and all of that, but he is actually a cat, and here they've kind of captured that, you know, I think with the fact that you can articulate the back like that, all the legs are really poseable as well, so overall I think they've done a really nice job with this guy. I don't know, there's something about the likeness of it that isn't quite 100% there for me, but overall I do like it. Laserbeak is also really good fun. I think it's quite weird that they went with the kind of Cybertronian mode, you know, with the non-bird head, or sort of similar to it anyway. If anything, it's kind of a cross between the two modes. I think he's got like his bird wings, but then the non-bird face, which is really strange kind of blend of influences. I'm surprised they didn't go full cartoon, but hey. And it's taken me till now to realise that if you leave the pegged version of Laserbeak's legs on, then that is what attaches onto Soundwave's arm with that little peg hole. I think of the 3 kind of animalistic cassettes, Ratbat might be the most cartoon accurate overall. Like, he's just straight up cartoon Ratbat really, and he looks great for it. Anyway, with all the cassettes assembled, it rounds off this set really nicely, and there's no denying that seeing them all together, it looks very cohesive, right? Like, you get a lot for your money in this package. Like, compare it to the price of current generation stuff, and I gotta say, I feel like this is a bit of a bargain, to be honest. Like, sure, it's non-transformable, and obviously, yeah, you gotta build it yourself, but that's part of the fun, isn't it? I genuinely think this is just a fantastic set, totally in awe of it. It also, by the way, compares very favourably versus some of the other Soundwave toys out there, including the recent Generations version and the Retro G1, and the colour on this thing is just so striking. I think, again, it's the bold white, the really nice deep blue as well. There's just something about it that visually it's so striking. And you know, as I said, I'm a big fan of the Blokees Action Edition Optimus Prime as well, but there's just something about the Soundwave. I really think they've knocked it out the park. And needless to say, I do think that these two together, this whole Action Edition thing, it's the best thing that Blokees have done so far in my mind. Add it all up, and what have you got yourself? A very solid recommendation from me. Action Edition Soundwave is great fun. I totally recommend you go and get it. It's a very definite toot. Now, as already mentioned, this video is brought to you by TF Source, where you'll find the Action Edition Soundwave up for order right now, so what are you waiting for? Go and check it out. I'd also be very grateful if you could leave me a like for this effort, please, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, but otherwise, that's it from me, so have a great rest of your day, and TTFN.